David Orford, thank you so much for joining us today on Archery, Not Anarchy. We're giving Roberta a little bit of a break here, so I'm sitting in Roberta's chair here now, and
Right.
I
So
actually
Roberta normally does the
she
interviewing.
normally does the interview. Oh yeah,
Right.
the grilling
Okay. Our interrogation.
yeah, better still. And she's given me free reign. So
Very good.
and I'm looking out the window. Actually, she does have a nice view here. Actually, anyway, I'm not going to get distracted. But David, first and foremost, archery. What drew you to archery, and what sparked your interest in archery to begin with?
Okay. I hadn't even thought about archery until I saw your notice about the possibility of setting up the club.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember now exactly where I saw the notice, but I did email you, I think, text you something to say I was interested. So that was it. It's something I hadn't even thought about until I saw that you were setting up a new club, and I said, yeah, I might be interested in that.
Happy days.
Yeah.
And before archery or even anything like that, had you do you have a sporting background? Had you done sports before or anything like that?
No, back in school days, obviously played a bit of soccer, a bit of rugby.
Yeah.
Did a good bit of cross-country running. And then I did a lot of shooting.
Okay.
Back in my kind of 20s.
Firearm shooting?
Hunting, rabbit shooting, pigeon shooting, that kind of thing. There was myself, my brother, and two friends, and we used to do a lot. We used to go down to Galway. There was a place near the Tina Mines down there where there was a lot of rabbits.
Fantastic.
And the farmers were begging us to come down and shoot them. That was doing that for a good. And then in kind of my mid-20s, when I got married and that, I just gave it up.
Yeah, life takes over.
Yeah. And so I suppose over the last, probably, I've been working in Dublin for the last 30 odd years.
Yeah.
And that has meant leaving the house most mornings at getting the 7 o'clock train and getting home at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Of course.
Which left very little time for hobbies, and certainly no time for sport. So kind of weekends were catching up on the things with the family, like with 3 kids, so they had to be reared.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'm winding down work now. I haven't retired completely yet. I do kind of 2-3 days a week, but started kind of looking around for other things to get involved with.
Well, I really like that because that's such a common story for people who've taken up archery.
Yeah.
And it's the same with myself as well.
Yeah.
You find that the window there, and you're looking for something, and for some reason it just piques your interest.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, like, Jesus, will I be any good at this, or haven't been doing too many sports or anything like that?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, David, because I think that's a common story that you hear from a lot of people who've taken up archery.
Right.
That they're looking for something new or something different, or like in my case, I was looking for something to do with Daniel. And like that, because they were getting older. And luckily for me, I'd moved from Dublin, and where I was working, I had a lot of time in the evenings, which is great. So I had that bit of time. But it's a really nice kind of story to hear, that it gives people a kind of I suppose, something new to do and get interested in, passionate in as well.
Yeah.
So
I suppose also I kind of began to realize, looking at retirement, and a lot of friends, but they're all friends at work. And when I retire, I'm not going to see them that much. Kind of meeting them for the odd drink or that.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of thinking, I need to start making new friends locally.
And I think that's fantastic, David. No, I really like that. And like that, going back to when you were saying there that you did a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting now because we're going to start venturing out now, doing some 3D competitions, getting out in the woods.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I know a lot of people who've taken up archery, they would have had a background in hunting, or maybe even in the army as well. And I find they bring with them, even unknown to themselves, a certain ranging skill, which is really good to have. It's almost instinctive at that stage as well.
Yeah.
I'm really curious now to see how things are going to go.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward
absolutely
to doing that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And for the short term, over the next few months, do you have any kind of goals in archery that you set yourself, or any objectives?
To try to improve.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I suppose I'd like to maybe do 1 or 2 competitions.
Cool.
Yeah. I suppose I don't have a huge amount of time at the moment because we've an old house, big old house, so I'm trying to get work that's been neglected over the years, get that done at the moment, and we've a big garden, so that has to be tamed. And
you have a big garden,
quite a big garden, yeah.
So your practice right there, like
exactly, yeah.
Set stuff up.
Yeah, so I suppose my ambitions over the next 2-3 months is just to improve a bit and maybe take part in 1 or 2 competitions. Probably a little bit apprehensive about actually getting into a competition because I've never been at an archery competition before.
And when you bring that up, it's normal to be apprehensive, and everybody going out there for the first competition, there's a lot of apprehension there, a lot of nervousness, a huge amount of self-consciousness as well, because you're out there, I'm going to make an idiot of myself, I'm going to lose on my hours, and that's even for me, that always kind of stays with you a little bit, and it's one of those things you have to kind of surmount. But what I will say in response to that is the people you'll be shooting with, everybody started off like that, and people are so nice and they're so cool and so supportive like that. And particularly if you're starting off there as well, there's ways of introducing people to competition as well. So it's nothing to be, it's not a reason for not going, put it that way.
Know,
so, absolutely. And for yourself, what do you think when you take up archery? Have you even thought, like, now that you're shooting a little bit and have your bow, have you thought about where archery might help you improve with yourself in terms of, say, athletically or mentally or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it does help me mentally anyway. I always certainly feel better after the session on the Saturday. And I think it helps you, or it helps me improve kind of concentration and that. So I think it's good. And like, it's a physical thing, so you're improving your physical skills as well. So I certainly noticed that now since I've taken it up, that doing the couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon makes me feel better mentally. And also, I suppose, I'm kind of seeing how physically what you have to do to get a better score. So it's a whole new area. Like.
From watching over the last number of months now, your grouping's like amazing. Like, in fairness, we're gone nice, really tight. And then in terms of the strength, as you mentioned there, when archers are shooting, it's very important that they leave room for fatigue. That's normally get tired. But like that, over the last few months, like, the number of ends you're doing, which is the sets of hours that you do, just increasing, which is great to see. Like, you're just firing them off there, which is great. And is there, because you've got two parts to archery, or two parts of many, do you enjoy the technical aspect of archery, or do you like the physical part, or do you like a mixture of both?
I suppose probably the physical, and I'm not terribly interested in the technicalities of it, I suppose. Maybe I will get more interested. I certainly, when I was starting off, I didn't think it could be as technical as it can be. I suppose that will probably come with time.
It will. And there's an archery, like, I suppose there is always a technical part. Like, even with I suppose even your traditional bows, long bows, there's that technical element as well, like brace height, poundage, spine of arrows, all that kind of thing. Like, but you'll find yourself just naturally absorbing that anyway. And is, when it came to learning archery, like going back to your beginner's course, so for example, so when you walked into the hall, and it was a 6 weeks beginner's course, and there were like 9 other people there. I guess nobody knew what to expect as well. When it came to doing your beginner's course, was there anything that was particularly challenging for you when you're doing your beginner's course?
I suppose when you walk into the hall on the first day, you don't know anybody, and you wonder who are all these people. But no, certainly I found you as a coach very good. And
Roberta's raising her eyebrows there, and she's going,
I will not have this slander, sir. I smile.
I found you encouraged not just me, but everybody, and you didn't make anybody feel that.
I'm going to hand you the plate of biscuits here, David. Would you like a biscuit?
Thank you.
No, that's enough about me. But when we talk about the beginner's course, did you like I suppose there was an academic part where we would chat to you about the bow styles and form and technique, and then there was the physical, I suppose, the actual shooting part. And do you have a preference for either or do you prefer to kind of get in and start shooting, or did you enjoy
I like to get in and get shooting, but I also found it interesting, the technical part of that, because I suppose it's something that I hadn't really thought about. I just thought you picked up your bow and arrow and fired it. I suppose, like when we were kids, we played cowboys and Indians. We made our own bow and arrows. They were a piece of stick with string tied on them, and that's as far. That was my only experience of archery, if you could call it archery.
And when you were doing your beginner's course, and because we are looking at this from a beginner's perspective as well, and we're interested to know how, because once you move on from a beginner, that's if you're not a beginner anymore. And that perspective is maybe gone. But when you're a beginner and you're doing your beginner's course, is there any kind of feedback or support that you would think would be particularly helpful for a beginner starting out when they're doing the course, or was the flow just okay?
I think I found the flow okay.
Yeah.
I never found myself in a situation where I was saying, what's all this about or anything.
Yeah.
It just seemed to go, and it explained it. You explained it very well, and it kind of just fell into place.
Sure.
I never felt uncomfortable or anything like that doing the beginner's course. Often, sometimes when you do a course, you kind of struggle a bit with it, but I didn't with the beginner's archery course. It just came,
But then I suppose with the beginner's course in any archery, you get to shoot stuff as well. So there's always that to it too.
Yeah.
And then just going to the bow you have.
Yeah.
When we would show all the different types of bows there, and like in IFAF, there, or in the IFAA categories, there's 12 different bow categories ranging from historic bows right up to your very complex freestyle unlimited compound bows. And I remember you had put a lot of thought into what bow you were going to get, the style you wanted. And when you look at all those styles, and I know it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes as well, but was there a particular type of bow or equipment that particularly piqued your interest, or something that was particularly interesting for you?
I suppose the traditional.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Veronica's bow and thinking, you'd like one like that.
Yeah,
so,
the Black Hunter.
Yeah, the Black Hunter. So the traditional style of bow would be the bow that would appeal to me. And I suppose possibly because since I was very young, I've collected bits and pieces of militaria, and I have a lot of kind of antique guns, swords, bayonets, that kind of thing. So maybe that's why the traditional bow actually appeals to me.
My new favorite member, David. Thank you so much. And
I actually have some antique arrowheads as well.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see those someday. Now, in fairness.
And I have some war arrows.
Wow! And when would you have the kind of the history behind them as to where they were?
Not really. No, I just know that they probably came from India. But
that's really
more
interesting.
Than happy to show them.
I'd love to see them.
I have what is supposed to be a Viking arrowhead, which is very different to the tips on our arrows. Yeah. So I'd be more than happy to show them.
Absolutely, I'd love to see that. Now, fairness. Yeah. And tell us a bit about the bow that you ended up choosing, what it is, and why you like it, and.
I suppose why I like it, probably just feel comfortable using it and the style of it. And I suppose the only thing is it's not the easiest thing to bring around the place because it doesn't come apart.
It's a traditional bow, isn't it?
It's a traditional bow, yes. Yeah.
Well, what make is it?
It's a white feather.
White feather.
Yeah.
There's lovely. And what poundage is it, David? Do you mind asking?
I think it would be 26 pounds.
Yeah.
I think around that, yeah. I can't remember exactly now, but yeah.
And what drew you to that particular bow?
When Jose came up with them and I looked through them and it appealed to me. So I said, I think and I picked it up and held it and that. So I said, I think I'll go with that one. Yeah. And I've been happy with it. Yeah.
And what type of arrows are you using on that? Are they carbon? Are they aluminium? Are they wooden?
They're wooden, I think. Are they? I'm not sure now.
I think they're carbon.
The carbon, are they carbon?
And did you find then it took you a while to get used to shooting that bow?
It did, because it was quite different to the one I've been using as doing the beginner's course. Yeah, it certainly took me a few weeks to just get used to it. But yeah, and I suppose I'm still finding that I think I have discovered the knack of hitting the target dead on, and then suddenly it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It's a whole learning process with the bow.
And do you have a preferred shooting style or technique? Or are you open to shoot like different types of techniques? Your anchor point, I suppose your form, your shot cycle, or you've settled into your cycle now fairly comfortable?
I think I've settled into my cycle. I suppose that was something that I didn't know when I was starting with anchor points and the way you stand and everything. Probably hadn't given it a lot of thought, but I kind of assumed that you just went and you picked up the bow and fired it. And it was kind of interesting to learn that, to actually using an anchor point and seeing the difference it made and how changing your anchor point can change the way the arrow goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when it came to shooting your bow for the first time, you take it, you string it, you knock the arrow for the very first time, and you're shooting for the first time. Was there anything that you found particularly challenging for that bow? Was there anything particularly irritating or annoying, or something that was kind of like, that was something that you had to struggle to mount?
There was nothing really. I never said, geez, why did I buy this?
Okay.
No, I've been happy with it. And no, I never. Sometimes I've fired arrows and they've gone all over the place.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, what am I doing wrong now? But no, I've never kind of said, no, it was a bad choice or anything. I'm very happy with it.
No, it's a beautiful bow now.
Certainly doing me for the moment anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the whole thing about a beginner, you're in there, you're shooting every week, and the improvement is clear, like from what I can, my observations as well. But for you personally, what would it take for you, or maybe it's already there, to feel like you've progressed or improved in archery?
I suppose probably just to get a bit more consistent in my shooting, that to figure out that if I do a certain thing, the arrow will go a certain way, and do that every time. And so, like last week, for example, I started off and the arrows they were hitting the target, but they weren't hitting where I wanted it to hit. And then gradually, as I suppose loosened up a bit, they were going more, grouping better and going more into the center of the target face. So I suppose just to improve in that area, and that would be
it's all about consistency. But all archers have those days, like I mean, it's just there, and sometimes you just need to take a step back and pause and just breathe a little bit and just refocus. And the worst thing you can do is overthink it.
I know.
And so far in learning archery, is there any? Can you give us maybe some examples, maybe if any, some of the challenges you faced in learning archery, or if any at all, or how did you overcome them, or how did you handle them? Was there anything that you felt that
there's nothing really on that I felt was a real challenge,
and
that I really needed to work on? And I suppose I look forward to going. I only do a Saturday. I don't have the time to do Wednesday, but I'd like to. But I look forward to it on a Saturday. It's not something that I kind of have to motivate myself to go and say, "Oh, come on, get up out of the chair, go on." I look forward to it, and
that's brilliant.
I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. No, I'm delighted to hear that now as well, that you have that kind of I suppose that inherent kind of motivation to do it as well, that it's something that you want to do and you like to do and you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It's nice when people can get that from it.
Yeah. I suppose in a way it's like darts. That I played a lot of darts many years ago, and in a way it's similar. I know.
No. I suppose you've got the mindful kind of repetitive nature of it as well, and the consistency of it. But it's not purposeless in that, like, you still have an objective there, and you're still trying to improve at something too.
Yeah.
No, that's really nice to hear. And when you come in and you practice and you're shooting there every week, is there anything particularly frustrating, or is there anything that just particularly difficult at the moment, or is there any kind of thing that you want to try, that you feel that you want to, that there's a niggling little issue there that you need to...
Not really. I suppose one thing I have, and I've said it'd be nice if we had an outdoor area for the summer months. That when it's a beautiful summer's day and you're in a hall, it's not I don't think it's an ideal location for it. Certainly during the winter is perfect. But it would be nice if we could locate somewhere outside that we could have outdoor sessions.
Absolutely. No, whether it's woods or even an outdoor range, as you said, to be outdoors, and it brings its own kind of challenge as well. You're dealing with the wind, the weather, different temperatures, shadows, and if you got outdoor, then you can experiment with different distances as well.
Exactly.
And so, as well as it being enjoyable, you have I suppose you've got that additional challenge of being able, and that helps serve itself as well. Then when you go to compete as well, because you figure these things out, like and. So go on.
I suppose I'm conscious too of the restrictions that are on an outdoor course. That I thought the place I showed you behind the school might have worked very well. And then suddenly realised when you pointed out, it wasn't 100% safe because of where the arrows could possibly go.
Absolutely.
I keep my eyes open for a location that we could use. But it's certainly, I know all the things that you have to take into consideration now for an outdoor venue.
No, and it's one of those things, like you see an outdoor venue and you're thinking, wouldn't that be great? I could have backstop here or 3D there and set up my line here. But then the more you shoot, and the more you get to realize just where exactly an arrow can go. When it's not how you want to release it. And particularly in the woods, if you're doing a competition as well, it's amazing how far an arrow can travel. And then if it hits something,
how dangerous an arrow can be.
Absolutely, because look, I think even though it's a sport, they're effectively weapons, like that's their heritage, like
exactly.
But I've seen arrows, if they hit something and they deflect, where they can travel as well, and how far they can travel, it's amazing. And so these are the kind of things that But look, it's not going to detract from our search.
Like for my day shooting, I'm very conscious of that and being careful. When you're shooting, you always have to be very careful where you're aiming and what was in the background. And
absolutely.
And I suppose a bow and arrow is the same. It can be a lethal weapon.
Absolutely. I like that. Just going back to what you like about archery. Is it more of a physical thing for you, or is it a mental thing, or is it a mixture of both, or do you find one kind of dominates the other? Like,
I think it's a mixture of both, because it is certainly physical. I know my arm does get tired by the end of the session on a Saturday. My arm would be tired.
Yeah.
But I think you have to concentrate, and I think that's good, and I like that you can't kind of let your mind wander. You have to keep focused.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do find my voice start to wander. And no, you need to focus on this now.
And that's nice because, like, I mean, I was going to ask you about how it develops. How do you think it develops your physical and your mental skills? But that is one area there is improving your
I think possibly maybe more mental than physical, because I think it's improving my concentration levels when you're spending a couple of hours just concentrating. I think it's good.
Yeah. Maybe that's where your focus is now, because your flexibility is obviously improved, like your expansion, your form, your strength. I mean, that's clear in the hall.
Yeah.
But like that, with that consistency, then it then becomes very much a mental game then as well.
Yeah.
Because you're already getting past these initial kind of physical hurdles.
Yeah.
And the balance between physical and mental becomes more of a mental kind of focus thing as well.
I suppose that was a concern I had when I was taking it up, that I am older, probably one of the oldest members of the club, and I was going to, will I be able for it physically? Will I get tired very quickly? But I'm not.
And that's something I love hearing, because it's one of the things I say to people at the beginners courses, that, well, firstly, never to compare yourself to anybody. That's the first thing. And there is no age limit on archery and taking it up. And and I've often said it as well, some of the very, very best archers out there have only taken up archery in their mid-40s, their early 50s. Yeah. And that continues up the line, like some of the best in the various categories. Yeah. Like that, you say it's the window of opportunity you find in life that you're given this moment to take it up. And then, so age is not a restriction.
Yeah.
And it's great to see, like I said, your grouping on the backs of 20 yards, amazing. Like, but I can see it there as well, like your expansion, your strength, even the frequency of arrows that you're shooting. You're shooting a couple of ends and putting on the bow. Yeah. Just hammering away there all night, like, which is brilliant, you know.
Yeah, because Siobhan said to me, God, you're shooting very fast.
No, that's brilliant. And come here, and I suppose maybe, as you said, do you find, like, on the line, because we take breaks then as well, but do you prefer, maybe to either or, it doesn't really matter, but do you prefer shooting alone, or do you prefer shooting on the line there?
I prefer shooting on the line. Yeah. I wouldn't like to just go into a hall and shoot on my own. I think it's the social aspect of it is very important.
Yeah.
And like, it's nice when we have the break and everybody kind of sits down and chat for 10 or 15 minutes. That's very important too. And certainly for me anyway, I think it is.
Because that was actually my next question, was the social aspect of archery as well, and the importance of it and what it means to people.
No, I think it is very important. Certainly from my point of view, I would see it as very important anyway.
That's something that we try to, and that was Veronica's idea as well, I suppose, the break in the middle, which is working out very well.
Yeah.
Because it allows people to sit down, take some time out, have a chat.
Yeah.
It allows me to yammer on about safety and things like that, and so it serves a few purposes there.
Yeah. No, I think we're very lucky, certainly with the group that I go with on a Saturday. Like, there's a wide range of ages and backgrounds and everything, but everybody seems to gel very well, and there's never been any issues, or there's never been a case where somebody is getting out of line or anything. It's everybody's always very helpful and in good humor. And
when you start getting out there, you're going to see that exact same thing reflected across the board, because, like, when you go to a competition and you're at the muster area where people are gathering before they go out into the woods, and then with your group, you say the exact same scenario there as well. It was a really nice, relaxed social element to it. Like, so you see it on a bigger scale outdoors. Pretty much replicated there. That's what's nice about it as well. There's so many people take up archery again for for many reasons, whether it's a competitive reason, but then social element as well. Has all those kind of avenues. You know? And that's what I like about it anyway. It gives people that choice. And like that, again, the question then is, like, did you think archery has helped you meet new people? Or, and I'm sure I suppose it has, like, in many ways, different people, different walks of life.
Oh, and I say everybody gets on very well, and there's a good atmosphere. So,
and then going on from that, so do you see yourself now as a committed archer? You're in this now for the long term?
I think so, yeah. I can never see it being my sole interest.
Oh, we'll work on that.
No, certainly I'm going to stick with it for the long term anyway.
Eventually, it will take over your whole life.
I don't think so.
Oh, it will.
Don't tell my wife.
I have your secret. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's actually out there. Sorry. No, that's brilliant. And come here, and even though you're shooting your white feather now, and it's a lovely bow, and it's it suits you so well. It's so quiet. It's so fast. That's what shocks me about it as well. Would you see yourself being interested in exploring other types of archery, other types of bow styles or anything like that? Or is it early days?
To be honest, I suppose the more modern, for want of a better word, I suppose, don't really appeal to me. Both John Ryan has...
Oh, it's a beauty,
and I can see the technical qualities and everything, but it just doesn't appeal to me. The more traditional bow, for some reason or other, that's what appeals to me. You know,
and you have your
I would certainly look at considering using it.
Absolutely. Well, you have some archers there and they're committed trad shooters or longbow shooters or historic bow shooters. And like that's not to say there isn't a kind of, I suppose, technical element there either. Because some of I know longbow shooters in particular, and the attention and the detail they give to making their wooden arrows, getting the spine and the tolerance right down to fine levels. They can spend like maybe 6 weeks making their arrows. And so even though you might be shooting a trad or longbow, there is that technical avenue as well, if that's the route you wanted to go down as well. So you have that room, you have that space there. And what do you think in archery? And it was something I wanted to ask you earlier about when you do the beginner's course. Is there anything now that you have you didn't expect from art? Is there something now that you obviously, when you do your beginner's course, I'm assuming that you have a certain preconception as to what archery would mean. But is there anything, how different is it now to what you initially expected it to be when you first walked in?
I suppose at this point in time, it's hard to remember exactly what my perception or my ideas of what was going to be involved are, because I've been doing it now since last October. I suppose it is difficult to cast my mind back and think, how did I view it when I was starting off? What did I expect from it? I suppose to the best of my memory, I don't think I had any kind of preconceived notions about what was going to be involved. I kind of approached it with an open mind.
I think a lot of people approach it like that. I think for most people who take it up, it's not with any kind of long-term objective. It's more of a have-a-go thing.
So
we say, oh, geez, I'm going to try to see how it goes. And then all of a sudden, they see all these different avenues opening up to them, which is nice. It's nice to help them explore that, because it's all about fun. And is there anything you would change or improve? Is there anything that you would... Actually, no. What advice would you give to someone now who's just starting out in archery? Again, if you saw a beginner coming in there now, and they came to you, say, what's the crack with this? What do you think? Should I stick with this, or what's it like? Or what advice would you give to a beginner now walking in the door?
I suppose I'd say go along and have a look first, see what people are doing. Maybe before you sign up for the beginner's course, just go and get a feel for what's involved. And certainly, I would encourage anyone that even has a slight interest to do the beginner's course to see. It might suit them or it might not. It may, after 6 weeks, they may say, this is not for me. It's not really what I thought it would be. I really like this. I'd say I would encourage anyone to do the beginner's course. I think it gives you a very good idea of exactly what's involved and what skills you need.
And again, if you're to chat to a beginner, and if there was one particular kind of, I won't say issue, but a kind of a little thing that you were to advise them, now look, lads, and when you take up archery or when you're doing your beginner's course, this is something you might need to pay particular attention to. Is there any one little item there that you actually tell them to say, look, lads, just focus on that, or do that, or focus on that? That's going to be something you're going to have to kind of figure out. Any one little thing, or even a few.
To look at the physical aspects of it, the thing like the anchor point and the way you hold the bow, and there's so many things that influence where the arrow goes that depend on how you're holding the bow, how you, I suppose, use an anchor point, and I suppose also realize that it is kind of serious too, that you have to be careful, you have to concentrate, you can't take a light-hearted approach. It's fun in that, and that's different, but you also have to be very conscious, I think, of the fact that it can be a lethal weapon. So
absolutely,
you need to be very careful and treat it in a serious way, but also in a fun way, that it is fun, but it has to be taken seriously as well.
I'm delighted now that you signed up for the competition now coming up, because look, it means that we're going to set our own little kind of objectives and goals and little things to practice on in different distances and stuff like that. We mightn't get all the distances we need in the hall, but we get most of them. So I'm looking forward to that now.
And what distances will we be shooting at in the competition?
In the competition, it's called a Flint competition. And there's a number of different distances. The longest distance is 30 yards, and the shortest distance is 20 feet. And you've got a series of distances in between that. The space we have in the hall, I'd be able to set up from 20 yards down to 20 feet. There's 15 yards, there's 10 yards, there's 20 feet. and we'll set up the hall in such a way that we'll shoot at those different lines and get yourselves used to shooting at those distances. And we'll figure out some way of finding somewhere or where we can get up to 30 yards.
Yeah.
And
I'm certainly interested to see what it's like shooting at different distances.
Oh,
because all my
absolutely.
shooting so far
Oh,
has been
yeah.
at the 25 yards.
Absolutely. But the good thing, to be fair to yourself, David, is all that shooting at the one distance has not gone to waste, because that's allowed you muscle memory to kick in terms of your form and your repetition. You have that. So literally now we're just looking at ranging and getting your distances down, because everything else is sorted. A big chunk there that you don't have to worry about.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get working on the competition now. But David, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Archery, Not Anarchy. And you've got free reign now to voice, to reach out to them.
I'd just to thank you for all your help and encouragement, Owen, because I think personally, I'm not just saying this, you've been a fantastic coach and you've been very encouraging, which I think is very important. I think anybody starting off with something totally new, they do need encouragement, because you're never going to start off and be an expert straight away or be perfect straight away. Yeah, I think that has certainly made a big difference to me anyway, the fact that you have been so encouraging as a coach.
Look, any benefits I bring to the table is just a reflection of what everybody else is bringing to the table as well, to be fair. The club wouldn't be the club without the people that are there, everybody that's there.
I know,
in fairness.
yeah.
So I think everybody, including yourself, David, in a massive way, we're all doing a credit to each other, in fairness.
Yeah.
But look, in any case...
And I mean, fair dues to you, Owen, for coming up with the idea of starting the club in the first place, because it's a big commitment.
Look, we're all in it now, in fairness.
Yeah.
We've dragged everybody in. But anyway, no, in fairness. Listen, David, thank you so much for that. Much appreciated.
Happy to
have another biscuit for all those nice things you've been
saying.
saying.
Thank you very much.
You know. Thanks a million, David. That's absolutely brilliant.
Covered a good bit.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant now, in fairness. Really enjoyed that.